Genre. Now that's a fun word to say. Genre. That sounds French. Do you know what a genre is? A genre is a category. When you like music, you don't always like every kind or every genre of music. You might love punk rock, but not country music. Well, those are two different types or genres of music. We put other things into genres. We might split our building sets into different categories like, say, I don't know, space, castle, city. Well, books work the same way. Most chapter books are part of a large genre called fiction, which just means that those books tell a story that came from the author's imagination. But fiction alone doesn't give us many details about what's in the book. So we divide books up into more specific fiction genres. Holes and The Hobbit are both fiction books, but they have very different settings and characters, so we put them into different fiction genres. Let's talk about one specific fiction genre right now. You know those books that have wizards and dragons and unicorns and elves, stuff like that? We call those kind of stories fantasy. The word fantasy basically means imaginary, make-believe, or pretend, and comes from an older word meaning visions or dreams, the same old word that gave us phantom. Fantasy books come from imagination, but all fiction comes from imagination, so what makes fantasy different from other kinds of fiction? Fantasy contains unreal things that could never be real in our world. Fantasy breaks the rules of what we know. Magical fairies that grant wishes living in your backyard? No problem. One-eyed ogres that fall in love at first, sight? Sure. Those things aren't real in our world, but fantasy authors make unreal things real in the world of their stories. A fantasy book might be set in a completely made-up universe, or in a made-up version of the real world with a few new rules for what's normal. In a fantasy book, teenagers might grow wings during puberty instead of armpit hair. When strange things happen, it's because of something unreal or unexplainable. In other words, magic. Sometimes the fantasy genre means every kind of fiction that isn't realistic. It can be a very general category that includes fairy tales, folk tales, spooky stories, animal stories, sci-fi, and anything else that has some kind of make-believe in it. But usually, when we say fantasy, we mean the specific category of modern or contemporary fantasy, which is literature that has unreal story elements, but a real known author. That makes it different from traditional fantasy, which includes all the myths and legends that were first told a long time ago and shared by people, not books, so we don't really know the original author. The amount of unreal things in modern fantasy varies from high to low. Some books are set in entirely different imaginary worlds filled with creatures, places, and objects that never existed. These high fantasy books often involve lowly characters like you and me, no offense, who grow and change after a journey or quest against the forces of evil. I hope that sounds familiar because that storyline has been reused and remixed in like a gazillion movies and video games. Think about it. Other fantasy stories keep most of the real world but change just a few normal things into magical things. These low fantasy books often have characters who discover magical creatures, places, or objects that had been hidden or forgotten. Many children's and young adult fantasy books are set in magical places that are connected to the real world by a magic word, key, or portal. When you're a kid, your dreams and wishes feel like they really could be just behind a mysterious door or deep inside a hidden cave. We never forget those feelings, and fantasy authors love taking us back to the land of make-believe. And even though it's fantasy, we make connections from the issues and troubles characters face to what happens in our own lives. If the protagonist is fighting a big scary dragon, it might make you think about how it feels to conquer your own big scary fear, or a big scary test, or some big scary bully. Exploring the strange, mysterious worlds in fantasy can actually help us explore the strange, mysterious world we call reality. So that's fantasy. It's set in imaginary worlds where things are unreal because of different rules or magic. That's why we love it. Anything can happen. Fantasy authors dream up anything from a magical stone to a magical galaxy and bring us along for the ride. Fantasy uses imaginary things to help us understand and deal with real things. When you read about an average kid who learns new skills and overcomes problems to become a hero, you might start thinking you can do that in your own life. And guess what? You can. You probably already do. It's not just a bunch of, hey, fantasy.